4:15 a.m. on the 28th of April, year of our Lord, 2024. Peace and long life. I wanted to come on here about a codes reading situation that I had here a little while ago, last year actually. It was a fair amount ago, but it was an interesting one that I tried with a diesel laptop's computer. Basically did what I could have done with a small tablet. Yeah. But anyway, I had my, I went through my systems. I went through the code in the dashboard of a 580N case. And I was called in there because they had a problem with the transmission. And I think they had a D rate. I used a Nexic Blue Mini and a Mac code reader, an older one. The thing's probably approaching 10 years old now and it's still operating well. The guy said there are no updates for it, A, because they no longer support it, and B, because it had every code ever available, SAE code available for any machine anywhere in the world. There was no update needed. Well, here I am with a 580N case, and I pulled the code up for the transmission temperature. Same one that was in the dash, so we had confirmation. But I had a little more information about it. It was a range fault. So Nexic Blue Mini, because it calls up running data, your operational data list, and the Nexic Blue Mini didn't necessarily give me, I think it gave me a number for the code. That was it, but it didn't say anything. I went down the list and took a look in the running data, available data, and I found a line item for transmission temperature. It's like minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I think we found our problem. Pulled the plug, and the read changed, and the code changed. So we knew our wiring harness, computer, controller, that gave us an idea that everything above is working. He said, well, cool. So I got into it a little bit more, tried clearing codes, found another code. So between the three units, one of them had the data, the other one had a better code description. And you'll say, I don't want to go, maybe you don't, but Bosch has a newer unit rather than a code reader only. I think it'll pull up SAE data. It's like $700 or $800. And if you go to, what was it, SPX online or OTC or Bosch even, and put in there HD code reader or HD code scanner, that should pull up the newer code. In fact, Bosch itself, the guy actually sent me an email and told me about the updates and the newer unit that replaced that one. So I just didn't have the $800 to drop to go get the little bugger. So far, the diesel laptops is money dollar for dollar, even telling people that it's available. Nobody wants to trust anything except OEM anymore. They're scared. So even if you go out and demonstrate it, people are wondering, what in the world? And I went to a friend's place and plugged into three of his tractors and gave him an idea of what was going on with all three of them. In fact, one of them, he said, didn't even know there was a real problem. He just knew that he lost a read on the ground speed. And we found a ground speed and went into the diesel laptops. It's a John Deere 6415, and we found where the sensor was for ground speed in the back end. Oh, cool, that one. It's okay, someday I'll replace it. So it was irrelevant for what he generally did. So that was just interesting. He said, oh, that's cool. And diesel laptops actually pulled it up. Well, so did the Nexic Blue Mini and the Bosch. Just in here, I was able to pull up the schematics to let them know if we needed to test it, we could. I could print it out for them too. So that's been a plus. But the Nexic Blue Mini and the others on the 580N case, to get back to that with a minus 40 degree Fahrenheit reading, we were able to go online, figure out what it was, and I think I actually looked up a part number for it while we were there, because Case IH, you can do that. And when we got done with Unity and went down there to buy one, they said $65. Like, no, yeah, that's the one for you. They got an argument. We had to prove to them it was the other one. So he got the other sensor, and he says, when you told me to be careful what you could end up with, he says, I had to be careful because they didn't realize even in that serial number range, there were different accessories available for the machine and the dashboard, depending on what type of transmission there was. And the idiot behind the parts counter didn't know and was too lazy to ask. So he said, "That's not it." No, yeah, that's the one. It's right here on the shelf. No, the cheap one was on the shelf, not the $250 plus unit that he needed. Digital. So we had an argument that way, but the only reason he knew was, yes, it's temperature sensor. Don't go. Let's go look at it. Because I hadn't pulled the plug to do a change of state test, which changed the code telling you that everything else is working, then he knew what the plug looked like. He had a rough idea what the sensor looked like, and he was able to go up there and tell them, you know what you're talking about, wrong thing. And he had given them the serial number. Just somebody looked up, saw, there you go. So be careful when you're out there. These people don't know what they're talking about most of the time. And unfortunately, when I worked at Empire Tractor, it was difficult because certain parts men knew more about a part or company or something that we dealt with than others. And other times, all three of them were deaf, dumb, and ignorant and didn't care, acted like they knew exactly what they were doing when they sold you the wrong spark plug at $60 from Kubota. So you have to be careful. You need to know as a customer what's going on. The diesel laptops is a big help, but so was the Mac Bosch unit from Mac Tools. So it had Mac's moniker on it, but it was a Bosch unit. Still have it. I take it with me because it's too easy. You plug the thing in, it reads SAE codes. That's it. You don't get any running data, but still, that's okay. No sensor data, but you do get the code, and it's somewhat of a description to help you. The Nexic Blue Mini will give you running data if it's available in there, and that was beautiful on both the deer and the case. It's a case in particular because that's what helped us find the sensor. Now, the story that goes with this is I went to get a starter for a Komatsu forklift. I think it was FD40C or something like that. FD40S, I forgot what it was, but it was a beautiful fork truck with a 6-cylinder naturally aspirated Cummins in it. The starter went bad. I went to get a starter, and the woman at parts at U.S. Material Handling, that's the name of the place, she gave me the wrong starter, ordered it, brought it in, and it's the wrong starter. I tried to tell her it's the wrong starter, and she blew a cork. She looked it up. She knows it's right. She, I. That's all I kept hearing. I said, all right, I'm tired of arguing with you. This is for a gas engine. I need one for a Cummins diesel, the most common starter ever in the history of diesels. Now, if you can't get it for me, I'll tell you what. She started screaming. That is the starter for your forklift. I said, no, that is the starter for somebody's forklift, not this one. This is a diesel, like I told you to begin with. And she got mad and angry. It turns out the starter was for a little Nissan gas motor. Probably a propane. And I just said, tell you what, I'll go to the customer. I'll have John Raygard call you. I'm telling him. Yeah, right. Have a nice day. You explain it to him why it costs him another couple hours for me to drive back and forth from here to there to back to the shop. So I did. Rhaegar laughed at me when I got there and showed him what I got from her. And he started laughing. He says, hey, why do you think I have you deal with it? He says, I'm not dealing with that witch. And off he walked and used a bunch of other explicatives and said, have a nice day. John was tough, but he was good. It's fun to work with. Well, if you don't mind tough, straight-talking people. So I went back, and she ran from the building because she knew Raygard would call. She called my company and told them, the branch, that I was angry, and she had to leave. When the right part was on the way, didn't tell them that she ordered the wrong part in the first place, and I got back over there and said, you must have scared the fat out of her. I said I wasn't even angry and yelling at like I should have been. And that's the thing, that you need to know what you're doing. You need your model. You need your serial number. You need your accessories. And that alone doesn't help you. You need to know if it has auxiliary. Yeah, for the sensor, for the transmission, or hydraulics, you need this information. Right down to what transmission is in there. Is it a 4-speed with a reverser? Is it a total power shift? You have to know these things because the hydraulic systems change. It's just that simple. They'll change the hydraulics depending on what's there. If they step up to a full power shift transmission, they may actually step up the hydraulics because you've got something that's more available. You got a power shift transmission. What's that mean? Your cycle times are faster, so your hydraulics have to match it. And it's a more expensive unit to begin with. Well, then you better upgrade things so the customer thinks they're getting more, whether they are or aren't. So that was the problem we had here. It was the type of unit that it had, and they didn't take into consideration that this dash was designed for certain things in the unit itself. Common rail engine, whatever it was, you need to know these things. Have your engine numbers available, if possible, the transmission, but usually your main serial number, your engine serial numbers, your PIN number, that is, if you don't have serial number, product identification number. Sometimes check again with certain units like JCB and others, the model number that's on the tag will be different than the model number on the unit. 580N might come down here to XYZ 580N, blah, 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 245, that stuff's important for them. And it's also important for you that you can say you gave them the numbers, and if they try and charge you a restocking fee, here's the paper I gave you. You failed. I ain't paying restocking. Take it out of your pocket, not mine. Why? $65 unit, restocking is no big deal. Some places will pay it. You get 10 places to pay it. Yeah, on a $65 part, $75, $100 part, all of a sudden you've got a little bit extra cash rolling through. Well, imagine that cash rolling through every week, 52 weeks out of the year. Yeah, they don't care. They want that money. And you can sit there and say, not doing it. So that'll help as well. Designations, you can't just tell them it's a 580 case. Anything that's a prefix or a suffix on that number, that letter better be right, or that extra number on any of them. They need to know that too. But it's also, you need to know that. So when they screw up a part that costs $200, $300, $400, $500, in some cases $1,000 for the simple parts, let alone getting into controllers, injectors, and other things for externally on it, pumps and such, you can run into a lot of trouble. And if you gave them the information and they botched it, now your restocking fee doesn't exist, or at least you can argue it away. So that stuff's important. Perfect example, I was working on a case, what was that? MX190, I think it was. What was that one? Yeah, I think it was an MX190. And I kept telling them about the hydraulic pump being bad. I mean, we're talking the tractor was in there for a couple of months, and as soon as I drove it in the shop, I knew it had a problem with the pump. And they kept saying, well, the hose will handle it. The hose can't handle this. It's not designed to for this length of time. And they looked at me, so what do you mean? And the pump had lost its control. It was locked in almost full stroke mode. So it was blowing over relief, overheating everything, and trying to get it through a stupid idiot's manager's brain sitting behind a desk who's done nothing but push papers and bark dumb orders. It was bad. But they started to look it up and found out there's no pump. They have to fix the old one. And the old one is in serious machine shape. It's going to cost them thousands to fix it. Now, mind you, the customer's without his tractor, had a blown hose. They had to get down 15 miles to pick the thing up because it blew the hose off down there. So another hose had to be put on to load it on the truck and bring it back. The guy's angry because, why can't you drive it back? And we all just turned and looked and said, what are you, stupid? They had a brand new hose and didn't last 15 miles. You want to drive it back? Well, it costs money to truck it. Then they found out the pump wasn't available. There were 2 or 3 pumps for the tractor, but for that serial number break, it wasn't available. I don't know what they finally did with it. Didn't care at that point because I argued for months that it had a bad pump and nobody wanted to pull it. Well, the system works. I said, yeah, everything works because it's a full bore. Well, then it works. No, it does not work right. And you got to have those arguments, and you need to have that knowledgeable information to look in there, because even in the service manual, while you're working on this stuff, you need to know the correct information. It's time for me to check out. 15 minutes. Peace and long life. And after that, may the Lord bless those who are his kids.